You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the fourth round of the third weekly of the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 5. I'm, of course, your host, Bairdrus, once again joined by my wonderful co-host, Sir Rhino.
Hello. We're 3 rounds in, and we're getting ready for an interesting matchup in the 3-0 bracket here.
Yeah, definitely. We have an oldie but a goodie here with our good old resident player, IlyaK, bringing out the Big Combri with a transformative sideboard so that he can play Voda combo, which is certainly interesting, albeit nothing new going on here, all cards you've seen before. But on the other side of the table, we have RodeoRex, who is bringing a deck called Elysian Horn. Now, this is certainly a new archetype, Rhino.
Yeah, Elysian mid-range with a lot of overwhelm units isn't really anything new. You know, you see the Dawnwalker, False Prince, Sandstorm Titan, Surso. I mean, with Predator's Instinct and Friendly Wisp, we've seen this before. But there's this card right in the middle called Shepherd's Horn from the new set that does some intriguing things in this list. How about you read us off what it does?
So Elysian Horn, it's
a lot.
It is quite a lot. Let me get it pulled up here exactly. All right, we got Horn here. So it's called Shepherd's Horn, not Elysian Horn. Sorry. And
Right.
it is a 3-cost relic, 1-time influence, and it says your cards with Overwhelm cost 1 less. Now, that's already a powerful effect when you're running a deck like this that has a ton of units that have Overwhelm. So reducing their cost by 1, really good. The second effect, though, is when you play a card with Overwhelm, you gain 3 life. Now, gaining life can be very important in some of these aggressive and mid-range strategies that we see other players playing. Being able to keep yourself up and transfer into the mid and late game is very important in a deck like this. But on top of that, we have some synergies here in the deck. RodeoRex is playing a card called Cult Aspirant. Cult Aspirant is one of the new 1-drop Life Force cards that the Xenon decks technically got. We see it present here. It is a 1/1 for 1 with Overwhelm that has Life Force, which means whenever you gain life, or each time you gain life in a turn, he gains +1/+1. Which means when you have Cult Aspirant down with Shepherd's Horn in play, every single time you play an Overwhelm unit, you're getting an additional +1/+1 on Cult Aspirant. So we have lots of little synergies working here in the deck.
Yep, this isn't your typical just fair, good stuff Elysian deck. It's got some synergies that are trying to push it over the top. And you mentioned the Cult Aspirant. Also note that it doesn't, Shepherd's Horn isn't, say, cast or anything. It's like that. It says play. So every time your Dawnwalkers are coming back, you're gaining life. And then you just got good stuff like Copper Conduit. And man, another Warp Dinosaur showing up here in Plated Goliath, the 7/5 Warp Overwhelm for 6 as well. So a little bit of card advantage sources in this mid-range list too, I guess. But we'll see if all of that adds up to be enough to overwhelm this Combray list as the players get going here.
Yeah, certainly. And we are going into the first few turns of the game. RodeoRex opening with just a simple Temple Scribe. And IlyaK has a solid hand here now that he picks up that additional power. He's going to be able to play almost every card in his hand, minus the Great Parliament. But Combri, obviously a deck that doesn't have issues getting power generally.
Yep, so Ilya's got the double time to get this Scribe down at some point if he wants to draw, but he can also opt to just play a 3/4 here. And no, he's actually going to opt to silence this 1/1, try and cut down on RodeoRex's possibilities of drawing too many cards and overwhelming Ilya's hand and board. Because RodeoRex can trigger that on 5 or 4 power. He's got so many 5 attack units that it makes sense to just essentially use this 2/1 to deny a card draw here.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. RodeoRex can have a ton of units, although doesn't seem like he has anything right away, which is quite surprising because, as you said, there are so many 3- and 4-cost units in his deck that are insanely powerful. Maybe he's looking for some sort of setup, and I think that's what he was going for right there. Yeah, Friendly Wisp into a false prince, draws himself 2 more cards, and now he has a very large 5/5 with Overwhelm.
Yep. So by holding on to that wisp, he risked it not getting silenced that turn, and it pays off by just playing it alongside a false prince. And I'm guessing the fact that he didn't do anything on 4 means he's still got more good, 5 and 6 drops here to play. And a transmuted Rhino shows up, gets some killer on it, and takes out this Seraph. And the pressure's on IlyaK here. He might finally relent and trade one of these 1/1s off for a 1/1. And just try and stem the bleeding a bit here.
It definitely looks like he's going to have to. I mean, his life total is under a considerable amount of pressure here. And he does pick up a Vanquish, which will take care of the Rhino. But, RodeoRex still has 3 cards, and IlyaK only has a Desert Marshal held up to play. I mean, there's still a ton of damage coming through here every one of these turns. Eventually, IlyaK is going to have to trade this Desert Marshal away.
Yeah, I guess he's hoping to, hold on to the Marshal to buff it with Stand Together so it survives a block, but none of that really matters if he's dead. RodeoRex, though, doesn't do anything on 7 power here, and that gives IlyaK a really nice opening to try and stabilize, especially by ripping this Cambrai healer off the top of the deck.
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing just little bits of pressure being applied here, and RodeoRex doesn't have a ton going on. IlyaK going to go for the obvious triple block here, I have to imagine.
Yeah, there's not really anything RodeoRex can do here to blow out this block. It's not like he has combat tricks, and even if he did, he can't really target false prints with them or turn into a frog. So IlyaK gets to trade his 2/5 for a 5/5 here, and he's got 9 health with some nice stuff in hand, and RodeoRex drops the 8/8 Overwhelm. Whoo, that's a lot of evasive damage.
Yeah, that Copper Conduit comes down, and it's going to be swinging in with all the other units this turn, I would assume. Interesting that he doesn't swing with everything. You definitely swing with everything there because you're essentially getting free damage in. The Copper Conduit has to be blocked there by all 3.
Yeah, if IlyaK wants to deal with Copper Conduit, he has to triple block. It doesn't mean you have to Alpha Strike there. You missed out on 2 damage potentially or whatever, but I think it would have been a good idea. I can agree with that. And hey, Cult Aspirant making himself a 2/2, not really the biggest threat here. Also, this life gain isn't really something IlyaK is concerned about at the moment, but it'll add up at some point. And he's just trying to hold on here. It's going to take maybe just 1 damage. We'll see what RodeoRex has as a follow-up. It's looking like not much, and IlyaK's desperately trying to stabilize, and he might be able to. He's really hoping to dodge one more big Overwhelm unit from Rodeo.
Yeah, and there it is. That was the kicker he was looking for. Now that Rodeo has found Cerso, I was going to say this is going to be a difficult situation, but IlyaK ripping Vanquish right off the top here.
Yeah, is that 3 Vanquishes down for IlyaK? I don't know how many more he has in his list, but he's certainly happy to see him. Yeah, he's got 3 exactly in his list, and we've seen at least 2, maybe 3, and now he gets the Leave Up Stand Together, which blocks this Permafrost, and he's looking at a 7-turn clock, and that's about to become a 10-turn clock with another Cambrai healer here. So RodeoRex is going to have trouble closing this one out. A 4/8 Seraph and a 3/6 Cambrai healer are tough to swing through.
Absolutely. RodeoRex needs to find another Cerso. Cerso's really going to be the kicker here.
And even that might not get the job done just because he just blocks the Pigify effect, and we know IlyaK has another Stand Together in hand.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine what he's going to be able to use to navigate this situation. I mean, if IlyaK keeps swinging in like this, maybe there's some way he can cobble together some amount of threats that would allow him to take down IlyaK. 10-10 Copper Conduit's certainly a good start. That's going to help out quite a bit.
But again, IlyaK can just make a 7/11 Seraph and sit back on that for now. And now that he's up to 18 health, this 1/1 flyer, which was kind of a threat before, is just not enough of a clock for him to be worried about not being able to get down Parliament or anything like that. All right, here comes the killer on the 10-10, and this Stand Together is going to make this Seraph survive the kill.
Yeah, this is going to be a slight blowout, although not nearly as bad as it would have been if RodeoRex had actually chosen to attack that turn. Instead, he would have been trading the Copper Conduit away for a 3/3. So overall, not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not where he wants to be. The Seraph is basically unblockable at this point and unable to be attacked through. There's no way he's getting around a 7-11 Seraph at the current time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how RodeoRex can actually win the game from this point. Like, he just doesn't have enough card draw. Like, this Play Goliath's nice, you get an extra Overwhelm unit, but you still got to find a way to do 17 damage to your opponent that's winning in the skies, kind of winning on the ground, and is about to play a Mystic Ascendant. Now, of course, it's still going to take a while for IlyaK to also find a way to win. This is really just getting to the phase now where he's got to find a Martial Ironthorn, keep it alive, wipe the board, and kind of Alpha Strike all in one go, or maybe Seraph overwhelms his opponent, something like that. So we've got a ways to go, but IlyaK is a heavy favorite at this point.
Certainly. I think RodeoRex's game plan at this point, like the way he wins from my perspective, is something like handling this Mystic Ascendant first off, and then hitting a series of very nice draws where he draws multiple Plated Goliaths from Warp, and also has another Overwhelm unit in the same turn to play, and eventually amasses enough threats that he can take care of the whole board. This attack here is very curious, though. Like, RodeoRex...
He's essentially trading a 10-10 for a 3/3.
Yeah, and
Not great.
I don't think he has any sort of combat trick anywhere that I know of.
No sort of combat tricks. His interaction is essentially Permafrost and Predator's Instinct. Outside of that, it is just units and a horn. So he's just trying to get this board cleared up, but it means this Surso gets hopefully slightly better, but again, this 7-11 Seraph is going to be here until it starts activating, and I don't know how long IlyaK will wait to do that, but it's relatively low risk to activate Seraph here, still with an 8/8. It means a Surso could get in a good attack. A Diogo shows up. Hey, there's a new Praxis card.
Ooh, yeah, that's actually going to be very interesting. But yeah, I don't think RodeoRex can get out here. That's interesting, though. I don't think he had to concede right there necessarily, but it's not like he was really going anywhere. That's very true.
He was facing down an opponent that was either going to be activating Seraph or Diogo the next turn while drawing a card every turn. It's not realistic to expect any way to win that. So
yeah, it's hard to imagine a scenario in which he wins, certainly.
Diogo got off to a fast start, but couldn't keep the pressure up there. Just drew a little too much power compared to his threats early on, and IlyaK got to stabilize via a bunch of Combrei healers and stand-togethers that he could sneak at the right time. So that worked out for him. A 7-11 Seraph, I think, is what we ended up seeing. That's just pretty wild. I guess it was that big, but yeah, it had a lot going on there.
No, definitely. Taking a look at sideboards really quick, though. Let's look at RodeoRex, since he's the one who's down the game. Let's see what he can bring in to help himself out. The first notable card I'm looking at is Accelerated Evolution. Accelerated Evolution, assuming that you're dodging cards like Valkyrie Enforcer and Sandstorm Titan, and sometimes even Sandstorm Titan grounding them.
And Desert Marshal.
Yeah, that is true. Desert Marshal. Yeah, there are a lot of cards you do have to dodge, but it is some semblance of evasion. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting just giving units that shouldn't be flying is good. And the thing is, even if they silence that, your unit's still large. Like, if you give a Surso flying, even if he silences it, it's still a flying Surso, or a 7/7. So it's not like some trivial answer. So I could definitely see the Accelerated Evolution coming in. It's notable here that while IlyaK has like a transformative sideboard, no harsh rules anywhere. This beat-down aggressive Overwhelm deck doesn't have to worry about ever committing too much to a board, even post-board, because IlyaK simply doesn't have harsh rule anywhere in his sideboard, which is a fine decision. Like, again, Combrei has a lot of large units. It's just if it goes up against another deck with a lot of large units, you can fall behind. I think the other big card here is Crystallize for RodeoRex. Assuming IlyaK doesn't have an Aegis on all of his units, being able to stun most of the board if it gets clogged up like we just saw there is going to get you lethal in a lot of spots.
Yeah, that definitely is where I feel like RodeoRex wants to be in the matchup. I mean, you have to pull in the crystallizes regardless of the stand-togethers. It's just too much of a blowout card. It's definitely how you allow yourself to take care of... it's how you allow yourself to take care of those big board stalls like we were seeing there. That being said, IlyaK obviously has stand-togethers, protects, and a ton of cards that can get rid of the crystallize.
Yeah, so Ilya takes the first game, but it's not going to be every game where he draws all of his vanquishes and Cambrai healers and ways to keep Seraph alive. So we'll have to see how this one plays out, although it looks like he's going to at least curve out on power a bit more. And we'll just have to see if RodeoRex can keep up with whatever Ilya's going to do here.
Yeah, and we are seeing this is a much better leadoff, I have to say, for RodeoRex, albeit IlyaK's hand is much less slow this time around. Like, he's going to have his threats and establish them very quickly. RodeoRex does have the friendly Wasp down, but IlyaK already building the giant Seraph, and he's got the stand together to protect it as well. So
right, Ilya here just trying to get the biggest butt on the ground so that it can just block everything. It might not trade with anything, but it can block with everything. Meanwhile, RodeoRex building up his hand. Ilya's found one of those crucial vanquishes. And again, we're going to see this 1/1 flying friendly wisp just peck away for now until Ilya presents something to stop it. He could play a 4/4 flyer here. It's looking like he's thinking about opting to hold up stand together / do nothing.
Yeah, RodeoRex does have a 27 turn clock. That is important to note. So he will close the game out eventually, right? But not anytime soon. And now that 3/7 Seraph is kind of cemented in place and IlyaK is being smart, he's taking a smarter defensive line and holding stand together, I'm not sure how RodeoRex gets through at all in the early game. He can start swinging now, at least with 2 of the units, since they don't get traded away immediately, but IlyaK is obviously going to come to this Vanquish here since he can still hold stand together. And now we're back to the same board stall where the False Prince isn't going anywhere.
Yep, so Ilya gets to Vanquish there, continue to hold up stand together. RodeoRex using Temple Scribe to buff up his Cult Aspirant a little there. Hey, that's cool. And hopefully digging for more power. It looks like he's stuck on... RodeoRex is stuck on not only just 4 power, but also doesn't have double prime. And now Ilya continues to build up his wall of defenders. Gains 3 more life there with another Cambrai healer. And this friendly wisp might have clear skies ahead, but also a lot of health to get down.
Yeah, this is already looking very, very bad for RodeoRex, and he's definitely stuck on power over here. Meanwhile, IlyaK finds his 5th power, gets the Martial Ironthorn into play, and the next power he picks up is just going to be money from here. Like, he's in the green. He's ready to go. He can afford to take a little bit of time because this 28-turn clock that RodeoRex is presented is putting him under no pressure. And unless I'm mistaken, IlyaK did bring in the Vodacon, so he certainly has the end game.
Yeah, and Ilya continuing to just hold up, stand together, no point, and just doesn't even want to play an Ascendant there. And now if he draws another undepleted power here, he gets to slam Ascendant and hold up, stand together, and it's going to be really hard for Rodeo to do anything about that. He doesn't get undepleted power, but it's still power, so... and there's the Vodacon. Whew, and the Cambrai banner. So Rex kind of just needs to win on this turn, or the game's going to be pretty close to over, honestly. Like, his deck just can't handle this 3/7. He didn't have a Permafrost or a killer for it, and yeah, Ilya's happily going to take 6 here and untap and slam down a Vodacon with the combo set up and stand together up.
Yeah, the win condition in this game right here was RodeoRex had to have Crystallize this turn. Crystallize would have put IlyaK down to... I believe he would have gone down to 3 health, which would have given him a chance to just alpha attack in on the following turn and be able to sneak in 3 damage and win. But without that Crystallize here, now that Stand Together is going to be held up by IlyaK, there's almost no world in which I can see RodeoRex managing to win this game at this point. Yeah,
RodeoRex now essentially has to survive until they can cast double Crystallize in a turn or something like that. Okay, Backlash though. There we go. The sided in Backlash. Yeah, that can deal with Stand Together and Great Parliament. And here we go. RodeoRex is still in this then, although depending on, I mean, Vodacon's probably going to let Martial Ironthorn activate here for lethal. It's very, yeah, there it is. So it looks like RodeoRex is still going to die here. Again, Vodacon plus Mystic Ascendant plus Martial Ironthorn is just simply too much. But still, the backlash at least made it interesting for a second there.
Yeah, the backlash at least got us, you know, a little bit closer. Unfortunately, it didn't matter here in the end, but...
Yeah, we needed some combination of Crystallized plus Backlash to win it, and he had half of it, just didn't quite get there. That 3/7 Seraph just blocking too much damage early on. And yep, the big Combre is just too big for this Elysian Horn deck.
Yeah, it was unfortunately just too much for RodeoRex to overcome with the Elysian Horn deck. A very cool deck, all things considered, though. I do definitely appreciate the innovation that people have been bringing in those kind of archetypes. You know, Elysian, a deck that already existed, of course, before one of the pre-supported factions, but saw its new addition in Shepherd's Horn and Cult Aspirant, people trying to, you know, build around it.
Yep. So with that match over, IlyaK moves to the 4-0 bracket, even though we're not really running a bracket, but he's still 4-0 in this tournament. And RodeoRex still 3-1 there. So still a good showing, and 3 more rounds to go. Could still very much be alive for 8. We could see more of that horn very soon. How about we go over the rest of this bracket as these match results trickle in here, Bairdrus?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our 4-0s, we have some familiar names as well as some new names. We have Papusidis, we have Tobu, we have Bill Murray.
Bill Murray?
Bill Murray. Is it the real Bill Murray?
No one will believe me if I said it was. But yeah, Bill Murray 4-0 with what's called Primal Time Monsters. We've got 4 Terria hatchlings in that list. So another Elysian deck appearing to do well. I believe Papusidis, or however you pronounce their name, is on Rakano Plate. Tobu we saw on the Argenport list earlier. And I don't know the rest of these. I'm looking them up right now.
Yeah,
Maniac with a 5 in there is on Skycrag Aggro. We haven't seen that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that somewhere in the top 8. Skycrag Aggro being a pretty popular deck today. And,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that one either, making the top 8. I'm surprised we haven't seen a Skycrag deck yet, though. Skycrag Aggro is very popular on the ladder.
Yeah, it's been popular on the ladder, and I think it's pretty popular in this tournament as well. Just how coverage has shaken out so far. We haven't put it on a feature match. We're getting our backup match ready to go right now, but we'll just round out the rest of these 4-0s as we get these results in. We also have Casey Nabrev. Man, I'm to learn everybody's name. Who's on Praxis Midrange, another Heart of the Vault Shatterglass Mage deck, and then we're still waiting on more match results until we know exactly everybody that's 4-0. There's still a few 3-0s outstanding.
Yeah, our last 4-0 that we know for sure. Obviously, we just saw IlyaK with the with his big Combri / Voda combo deck taking it down. So then we have a bunch of 3-1s to follow up, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into our backup match really quick so we can get whatever we can out of it. I do believe these players are in game 3. Yeah, it's gonna be HiThar up against Eternal Hans. Now HiThar is on
Praxis Killers, I believe, is what I would call it. It's a Praxis mid-range list, but it's also splashing Shadow for Dark Return, and it's playing Predator's Instinct. So it's kind of like Xenon Killers, except Praxis mid-range threats now with the splash for Dark Return and a few other Shadow cards. There's a few players that are on HiThar's team that have brought this deck, I believe. I think there's 3 people that showed up with this. They're calling it Praxis Killers, but again, it's got Shadow in it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the other side of the table, Eternal Hans, I believe, is on one of the Knucklebone style decks. I think his is actually Huru based, but I think he is splashed in for Knucklebone specifically.
Yep, 4 Knucklebones, 4 Torch as the fire cards, and wouldn't be surprised to see maybe some other fire cards on the sideboard. No, it looks like those are the only fire cards. So, and 2 Furnace Mage. There you go. Okay, instead of playing Caleb's Choice, play some Furnace Mage and just get the threat that also can deal with Yeah, it's a threat that can also deal with relics. But let's check out this game that's underway.
Yeah, and we do see HiThar establishing some early aggression. He's got a pair of Grenadins down and a Dawnwalker. We see 2 copies of Diago in hand, although not going to be castable until next turn. Interesting, though, has 2 copies of Diago. Not exactly the card you want in multiples, but it's not necessarily a bad card to have in multiples either. It'll still get the job done.
Against an empty board, it's still a 3/5 charge, but now that Torgov Ice Tracker shows up, you might still just A-space in here and try and, end this game as quickly as possible. Maybe get them into reach range of your 6/6 that does too. But Turtletons has the Aegis on his face, opts to block the 4/1 that might come back, but maybe not coming back anytime soon. And yeah, Torgov Ice Trapper is a card we haven't talked about yet, but Primal got some beef in this set, and he's kind of the flagship beefy card of Primal. He's a 4/5 for 4 that whenever he hits your opponent, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. And in the late game, if you've got 15 or more cards in your void, he becomes a 7/8. So it's just a huge guy that just comes down and can be aggressive, can also be very defensive, as we see.
Yeah, certainly. And he is providing a large body right here. So, exactly what you were saying. He is just going to kind of stall the board. Eternal Hans, unfortunately, had to spend his turn using a Wisdom of the Elders to draw some cards. And then he was able to permafrost the first Diogo, but with the second Diogo coming down, 4 damage is going to sneak through, and all of a sudden, Eternal Hans is in lethal range right here just on board.
Yeah, charge on these Diogos being quite relevant, making it a little tougher Hans to stabilize here, but down comes the Throne Warden. It's a 4/4 body, gains crucially 4 more armor here, and now HiThar's really got to find a way to close out this game. The Amber Acolyte guarantees he gets to start chaining Heart of the Vaults, so it looks like he opts to grab those. But yeah, and there's also pauses here in response to some of these plays, so that means Hans probably has a Torch or a Protect, something like that up, and HiThar will have to make note of that. Not a lot of great Torch targets on the board here for Hans. And now HiThar's got to choose, does he want to A-space here just to get in 3 damage? I don't know if that's worth it.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's worth sacrificing the damage.
Well, if they want to kill Diogo, it means they take 4. But again, then you've just got a few 1/1s. You might just have to A-space here, even though it doesn't feel good. Just because, when are you getting to 8 power for Diogo anyways? If you're playing, do that as your win condition. Plus, you have the other Diogo that you could still ultimate that's under a permafrost. You don't have to exhaust him to do it. So, I don't mind this attack. Now, because Hans has a Torch, he actually does get to take out 2 units here, which makes this a little worse, but still, HiThar's just trying to end the game, and I think the A-space line is a reasonable path to take to try and end it.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Eternal Hans does have this Aegis on his face, so these Heart of the Vaults aren't going to just guarantee lethal like they otherwise would right away.
Right. Wow.
So
Hans just drawing more cards there. That's not what I expected to see when Hans untapped with 6 power open. So not going to add a whole lot more to this board. And then Herald Song was his Echo draw for turn. So that's good for HiThar. I mean, his opponent's essentially just sculpting their hand, which is scary in the future. But every turn they're not dealing with your board or building up their board. It's got to be a win for you.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And in the meantime, HiThar does have these Heart of the Vaults to follow up with. I mean, even if the damage isn't immediately hitting anything, they are scary 6/6s, and they do draw you another card. So you're gaining tons of card advantage all the time.
Yeah, it's important to note that HiThar hasn't presented like a Vanquish target or anything like that. It's not unreasonable to think Hans has some number of answers to these vaults, but still is going to draw a card, pop this Aegis, put a 6/6 onto the board, get back Dawnwalker. There's just a lot of things going on here that give HiThar a real chance to close out this game here if Hans doesn't have the right answers.
And it doesn't seem like he has them right now. He does have a permafrost right there for the Dawnwalker to hold it down temporarily, but Right now, HiThar just needs to sneak in 1 damage to be able to finish this up with the Heart of the Vault, assuming Hans doesn't have something like a Protect laying around to go ahead and keep him alive with another Aegis. But I have to imagine he isn't holding one currently. Oh, does have the Island's Favor, though, so there you go.
Yep, Permafrost, the 4/1 Overwhelm, get an Island's Favor up on your face. Plays a seat, which means that Han still has a Sigil in hand, at least out of one of those 3 cards. And now HiThar's got some options here. He could slam the Diogo, which is a lethal threat here, so it has to be blocked, which means your opponent can't double block this 6/6. That sounds pretty good to me. You could also just ultimate the Diogo that's already in play to make the rest of the cards in his deck double damage and charge, but I think you can still wait for that. All right, HiThar opts to go for that route here and make all of his future draws more potent. Sure, that's... And then still just a space here. And now Eternal Hans is probably... Okay, has Island's Choice. Okay. So the board is now cleared for Hans. He has dealt with that. But HiThar's still got plenty of gas in the tank. He's just got to somehow sneak in the rest of this damage. And Hans has the Knuckle Bones. All right. And he's just... And HiThar knows Hans' last card in hand is a power there. That was, again, an undepleted seat. So it's whatever he draws off Knuckle Bones is the gas here. HiThar with, a charging double damage 5/3 that can take out Knuckle Bones coming next turn. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, he does have Overwhelm as well.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll be able to push through pretty easily here. Hans is going to have found 2 very good cards off of those Knuckle Bones. Not quite what he was looking for there in the 1/1 Revenge Flyer. And he had another power. I hope he has another removal spell. If not, I think this is just going to be game right here.
Yeah, HiThar's going to slam 2 charge units, one of which has double damage and Overwhelm. You could have killed the Permafrost on your double damage Diogo or Dawnwalker instead. He opts to hit the Knuckle Bones, but I think if I didn't do the math on the attack, but it might have been better to just free up one of your threats here. Go for lethal because your opponent's at 3 and you would have had 3 lethal units in play or 4 lethal units in play. That's a bit of a misplay there from HiThar. I realize it's good to kill Knuckle Bones, but it's better to kill your opponent. But you might still just get lethal here anyways with this 10 Overwhelm damage coming in.
I think this is a lethal attack here, though. Like, I don't think there's any way around this Shatterglass Mage just hitting him for that extra 3.
Right. Yeah, I think he had lethal regardless. Okay, there's refresh. So that also makes Torgov a 7/8. That is the 15th card in the Void.
This also, yeah, so if he blocks the Heart of the Vault here, no. He should block the Heart of the Vault with the 7. That's really interesting. I feel like if he just blocked the Heart of the Vault with the 7/8 and then he sacrificed the 4/4, he still took 6 damage that way as well, and he would have cleared 2 units off the board instead of just 1.
Yeah, I think these two have been involved in a long match with a lot of weird lines and new cards that they're not used to seeing. And Smuggler's Stash is cool. That could stabilize him here until HiThar finds a charge unit. It gets back literally 1 unit, but it can block a 6/6. And yeah, HiThar... we're both in top deck mode. Eternal Hans is in top deck mode with a library full of random cards. HiThar in top deck mode with cards that all have double damage and charge. So I would say HiThar is the favorite here with Eternal Hans at 1, but who knows what Knuckle Bones gives here.
Yeah, and it ends up giving...
the lethal Greninja.
Oh,
Just
man,
like
yeah,
we
the
drew
lethal
it up.
Greninja.
Just
that was
like
almost close enough. Almost enough. But yeah, this Greninja drone is going to be able to push in with a charge. And we get to see here that Diogo just putting in a ton of work here, giving all the units charge and double damage. I mean, really just the charge here was what was important. Double damage also very important, obviously. But
Yeah.
Being able to slam these charge units is just so impactful in a matchup like this. It just gives you almost infinite gas.
Yep. So HiThar takes the win there, and I think they were both 1 and 2. So HiThar goes to 2 and 2. Eternal Hans drops to 1 and 3 in this tournament. HiThar getting used to playing a deck that's not big Combre, despite what the overlay may have said there.
Yeah, one of our resident big Combri players finally spreading his wings a little bit with set 2 and playing a couple new decks. So good to see him doing well, and definitely a fun deck to see there. Like, I'm a huge fan of these practice decks. I mean, anytime I get to see some warp cards or some Heart of the Vault, I'm pretty happy. So
yeah, we even got to see a Diogo ultimate. That was sweet. That was certainly strong there.
yeah, it was very, very cool there. So that is going to do it, though. That was our last outstanding match for round 4. So we are going to take a very short break, folks. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back with coverage of round 5.